All right. Jeremy, how many I got in there? I can start. I know someone with your ice cream. I'll be back in a minute.
Ay, goodness, boy.
7 to 5.
We doing anything tonight?
All right, we'll get started. So we're coming up to the finale of this thing. Have you guys gotten value yet, or what?
Yeah.
Woo! You didn't get value. Something's wrong with you. All right, so this guy that I want to introduce did something that nobody in this room has ever done, and none of you will ever do in your lifetime. Well, I say that maybe some of you younger guys may want to do that, but he has served this country at the highest level possible, the tip of the spear, right? Special Forces, Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 7, deployed all over the world in operations that would make you shit yourself. And some of you guys can't even borrow $1 million. When this guy goes and puts himself in situations that can kill him on a weekly basis, probably, maybe on a daily basis, who knows? I don't know the whole story, but and I wanted him to come, for one, because I have a lot of affinity for the forces, especially somebody like this that's a high-performance military guy. And I wanted him to deep dive, because your biggest problem as an entrepreneur is going to be, what do you think it's going to be?
Mindset.
Yeah, that's one too. Fear. You're scared. Are you not scared? Raise your hand if you're scared. You better be scared. If you're not, say you lying to me today. Oh, you got to raise your hand. I'm scared. I'm scared. I stay scared. But there is a system, there's a process that you can do to help mitigate that. And this guy's been trained by the U.S. government on how to push through hardship, how to perform at a high level, or you die, right? The cool thing about being an entrepreneur is that if we can freaking overreach, yeah, we may die financially, but we can start over. This guy does stuff at a level where he plays for keeps. If he messes up, it's over with. You're done. You can't make mistakes. So when I hear y'all bitching and complaining to me, oh, no, I can't spend $5 grand on marketing. It's a lot of money, Chris. Man, get the fuck out of here. You got to get your head out your ass. You're going to have to take a degree of risk, right? And this guy's going to help you stretch that, and we're going to talk about that. So without further ado, give it up for Mr. Coulter, Aaron Coulter. Coulter. So, first off, I appreciate you coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know you.
Thank you all.
You flew all the way from.
I was in Oklahoma City yesterday doing a leadership event, and then prior to that was home in San Diego, where I live. Let's go.
You're originally from.
Originally from Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, how old are you?
And I just turned 38 last week and a half ago.
Let's get a 50,000 foot view of who you are as a person, your upbringing, what made you want to become a SEAL, and we'll get into some content around being a Navy SEAL.
Absolutely. First, thank you guys all for being here and for having me here. Are there any vets in the room? Just out of my own curiosity. One? Awesome. Thank you, sir, for your service. Honestly, my mom and dad were the first ones to tell me what the age was that I wanted to be a SEAL. I don't remember, it's been that long, but I'm told it was about 7 years old when I first started talking about it. I think at that time I probably didn't know it was like a Navy SEAL. I just knew it was like military, something special other than something that was more at the tip of the spear. Grew up playing rugby. One of my dad's friends on his team, he was a SEAL. He was a West Coast guy.
I don't mean to interrupt you. So at 7 years old, you knew you were going to be a commando.
I did. At 7, 8, I knew that I wanted to do military, and I hadn't really figured out what a SEAL was at that time. And I don't really, I mean, I have some memories being that young, knowing that I wanted to be military, but not exactly, you know. But then as I grew and as, you know, as I'll tell you, that's when both my parents were like, yeah, you were about 7 when you first started talking about it to us, you know, that's what you wanted to do. So yeah, I mean, I guess for me it's more of a calling. And not to get too like woo-woo spiritual, but like I think honestly that it might have been some like past life shit, because it was very ingrained in me from a very, very early age, which even at 38 doesn't make much sense to me. That how would a 7-year-old know that?
That's the only thing that makes sense.
That early, yeah, that's all I can think of. Like it had to have been some kind of a spiritual thing for me, because it was from such an early age. And so I think that around 10 or 11 years old, which is too early for this, but my dad took me scuba diving for the first time. And if there's anyone that's ever dove out here, or here that's ever scuba dived, it's like, it's a whole other world. Like breathing underwater isn't something that humans are like supposed to do, you know? So I think that mixed with the military thing is when I started to be like, okay, like underwater. And then of course, you know, G.I. Jane and movies and shit like that, where they're like coming up out of water, you know? I'm like, that is so cool, you know? So playing rugby, my dad played in you know, college, so I naturally played from a very young age, being around a bunch of older men. And if anyone's ever played rugby, I don't know if there's any ruggers in here, but it's definitely a very particular group of men that do that. So wanting to be in the military from a very young age, not knowing what branch, what I wanted to do, but knowing that I wanted to like, you know, go to war and like carry a gun and do cool shit, you know. And then the fascination from a young age with the underwater scuba diving stuff, and then being around a bunch of older hard dudes, I think it kind of culminated around 10, 12 years old, where I was like, all right, Navy SEAL. Like that's when I kind of started to realize Green Beret, Navy SEAL, you know, CAG, like all this other, all the terminology, and I'm like, all right, like they're in the water, they scuba dive, you know, which is awesome. I loved it. They're the tip of the spear, you know, all the sexy shit. They skydive, they shoot guns, blow shit up, all that. That's why I think it kind of culminated to that. So that's where the Navy SEAL thing came from.
So you said you played rugby. Is that the only sport you played?
I wrestled, started started wrestling in like 6th grade, 7th grade, and did that all the way through until my senior year of high school, and I got into jiu-jitsu. And then I've been doing combatives, some form of combatives, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, all that kind of off and on since high school. And then played rugby at a fairly elite level. Actually, my dad wasn't upset, but I was on the national team my junior and senior year of high school, and I was kind of going the path. My senior year of high school, my Texas Select coach was also the pro coach, so I was kind of going toward the like pro route. My little brother actually played pro rugby, and I was headed that way, but then I joined the Navy instead. My dad was like, you know, but. I get it. You've been talking about this shit since you were a kid. So.
What year was that you decided to join the Navy?
That was in 2000. Well, graduated high school in 2005. So I joined in March 7th, 2006. I joined the Navy.
That's when we were still in Afghanistan.
We were. It was at that time like my high. 9/11 was my freshman year, and I mean like most of us in here. I don't know, there might be some young ones here, but like most of us can kind of remember the day of. I remember I was walking back from freshman football, and it was all over the TV and stuff. Obviously, we don't need to go into that, but that was freshman year, and so the war was really heating up around that. The war kicked off then, and then graduated 05, went in, joined the Navy in 2006. And as my story kind of plays out, I'll preface this: I had every reason to not make it. Every reason to quit, every reason to fail throughout my life, and it's not just the Navy SEAL thing. I'm kind of a hybrid in that I have 19 years chasing combat, chasing war, but I also have 10 years as an entrepreneur. I've been a millionaire, I've been homeless, I've lost $1 million in a month. Like, I've been up and down, both as a civilian and in the military, so we can get into all that. Yeah, I think...
So you joined the Navy at 22, right? You just become a SEAL. Right?
I was 19. I graduated high school and turned 19.
At 19?
At 19.
You went to sign up to be a Navy SEAL?
I did, with a pregnant girlfriend. So we'll get to that as well. I was a very young father as well, so another reason that could have stopped me. But yeah, so senior year of high school, knocked up my girlfriend. You know, we were planning on, you know, we had other conversations, but I'm from a very traditional Southern family, and when that happens, it's like, all right, time to fucking be a man. You're gonna, you know, take care of it and do what you gotta do, and you're gonna marry her. So, yes, sir. You know, so yeah, I had a pregnant wife and was shipped off to Navy boot camp. 2 weeks later, we got married, and then I left 2 weeks later.
So let's talk about, you got shipped off. Let's talk about buds and all that stuff. What was that like? I've seen a lot of videos of, you're about the third Navy SEAL I've had speak at my event. Tell us what that was like for the average guy that's never done something like that, the intensity of it and what that takes to get through.
It was definitely surreal. Having wanted to be one for so long, I think that I had a little bit more mental preparedness. Like, I'd read books, I'd watched movies, I had talked to people, and that definitely helped. As opposed to some guys that just decided like 6 months prior that they wanted to be a SEAL and they show up, and you know, that's a little bit different. But it was everything that I thought it would be and more. Hands down, the hardest thing physically that I'd ever done. I think that my childhood, I had a very, we probably won't really go into that, but I had a very, very rough childhood. My early years were very physical with family. And so that, I think, helped a lot. I was actually, as a man now, I'm grateful that I had a lot of experiences that I had as a small child. I think it definitely made me tough. And it built a lot of the resilience and a lot of the mindset tricks that hopefully I can impart on you guys. It's like, I thought about that flying out here. What's one thing, whenever I was talking to Chris about coming out here, like what value can I give you guys the most, you know, and try to consider what you guys do and in the real estate game and all that. And I think that definitely, those tricks, mental tricks, which is mostly mindset, is just all mental tricks. You just have to play on yourself, you know. And I think that kind of started as a child, and then moving in, and then Buzz just solidified it.
And you said you had a rough upbringing. I'm assuming your dad was hard on you. It was a traditional stuff. I came from that too. My stepdad was super hard. To the point where I would never be that hard on my kids. So I would
not.
Yeah. So I can relate that when you said that kind of thing. But I'm grateful and thankful today that it made me more harder when I got older.
Absolutely.
And I just picked that up from you, and you said I'm grateful.
I'm very grateful. If I ever see to do it again, like, I'll definitely knock him the hell out. But like that kind of situation. Not so much for me, but like for my mother, you know. But it definitely, I'm definitely grateful for it though, in a weird psychotic way. Like on the back end of that, like flip side, you know, like it was horrible, it never should have happened, you know. I still get emotional and, you know, think about like stuff with my mom. That's really what bothered me. It wasn't so much me, it was like experiencing things with my mother. But on the flip side of that, it definitely cultivated me,
Yeah.
Made me
It made you who you were.
Absolutely.
So getting through Buds, usually from what I've read, you got 360 roughly people that join, 17, 18 people leave as a SEAL. Is that correct, roughly?
Yeah, my graduating, it took me twice to do Buds, we can get into that, but my graduating class started 284 people, and we graduated 36, I believe. Original 36. We had a few roll-ins.
And we were talking about that because you said a lot of these guys, it's not that they can't really get through it, a lot of them get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, because you talked about, I forgot another Navy SEAL, Taylor Kavanaugh, talking about that too. Like, a lot of people just break bones throughout the whole experience, and they just can't physically get through, and they got to check out. So talk to them.
Funny story.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
You know, it's funny, you drop me anywhere in the world in a combat zone, and I'm cool, calm, and collected, I'm fine. I'm in a group of people talking, and it's like, it's so funny.
Is he doing great, guys?
Yeah,
You're good, man. You're good.
But yeah, so my first time at Buds, 2006, of course, full benefit, full sin. I get a winter Buds class both times. Still to this day, I would much rather freeze than be hot. In that, you know, Louisiana humidity, like, not about it.
Yeah.
But
you work well in cold weather.
I do. I operate much better in cold environments than I do. Now, most of my deployments are all to Africa, and growing up in Texas, I can take the heat, and you won't hear me bitch, but you look at my face when I'm hot, I'm not gonna be happy. Like, look.
Yeah.
But yeah, so first time at Buds, I was 2 weeks before Hell Week, and we were doing an evolution called Night Rock Portage. And anyone isn't familiar, basically in front of Hotel Del Coronado in San Diego, there's a bunch of rocks right on the beach. And your boat crew, it's yourself and like six or seven other guys, and you're paddling in, you're about 200 yards outside of the surf zone, and it's pitch black outside, it's winter, so the waves are massive. And you can't see them because it's dark, right? You have the ocean in your back, and you're out there waiting for the instructor staff to like basically wave you in to like, you know, land. And the whole objective here is to land a small raiding craft with 6 guys at night in high surf, high tide, hitting these rocks, and able to, you know, navigate up over these rocks so that you can land on the beach and then like carry out and go do your mission and not get hurt, right? And you have all the gear and everything that's in the boat and on you, and it's pretty dangerous.
And you have a rifle on you.
Yeah. Not in Buds, but like this is the very beginning evolutions to build up to that, right? SEALs being from the UDTs, right? That's kind of our birthplace. Is where we're from, is like landing on beaches. So I'm in front of Hotel Del, and we start paddling, and we get about maybe 15 feet from the rocks, and this rogue wave hits me from behind, and I'm on the right side, number 2 man, so I'm about in the middle of the boat, and this thing flings me like a rag doll through the air, and I go about 25 feet in the air, and I come down, and of course I'm like a cat in the air. I'm like trying to like land on both my feet, you know. I'm like, don't get hurt, don't get hurt. And I mean, my legs were frozen. It was, you know, sub 50-degree water, 50-something degrees outside. It was December. It was early December, and I come down, land on the rocks. I hear a little bit of a snap. I feel something. I just feel pressure. I literally can't really feel my legs very much. And I feel pressure, and I hear a snap, and I'm like, that wasn't good. I'm like, that's not gonna be good. And of course, as a 19-year-old young, dumb kid that doesn't wanna get hurt, doesn't wanna get rolled, doesn't, you know, wanna get in trouble, whatever, I don't say anything. So I finished the evolution, finished that night. My legs are hurting, but I'm kinda like hobbling, whatever. We get the boat, you know, boat's at high carry. We run back that night. The next morning, both my legs are like swollen, about the size of my knees, from like my ankles to, I mean, it's just like a solid, like cylinders, you know? And they hurt, they're sore. I took about 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol that morning, and then I was basically cycling 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol and 1,000 milligrams of Motrin. And I'm just doing that every like 4 to 6 hours for the first day or 2. A week goes by, and it's not getting any better. And I'm like, shit, man, I think I did something. I was like, well, I'm just gonna get through Hell Week. Hell Week's week 4. So for anyone that doesn't know, Buds is about 6 months long. There's 3 phases. Each phase is 2 months long. And the first phase is just basically like getting your ass beat. And there's no guns, there's no demo, there's no shooting, nothing technical. It's really just a bunch of workouts. Log PT, boats, O course, running, swimming, a lot of inspections, and you always fail inspection, no matter what. And so that's first phase, and I'm about 2 weeks into it. Hell Week is the 4th week of the 8-week first phase, and a week before Hell Week, we had a 4-mile time to run. And usually when guys fail, they fail by like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, you know. I was the very last dude, and I'm like, at this point, this is 2 weeks after the rock incident, so about 2 weeks later, and I'm hobbling, and I'm like barely running. I know something's fucked up. I'm like, okay, like I'm probably gonna get rolled, but I just have to get through Hell Week. And the reason why I wanted to do that, kind of like side note, is that there's benchmarks throughout Buds. So the first benchmark is when you graduate Hell Week. So when you get through Hell Week, after Hell Week, if you get hurt or get rolled or you fail something, you go back to day 1, right after that.
You stopped.
That benchmark. The second benchmark is day 1 of the second phase. We'll get to that later. But so I'm just like, I just have to get through Hell Week. I don't know what I was young and dumb. I don't know why I thought I could get through Hell Week with 2 giant, ginormously swollen legs and could barely pass a 4-mile time run. I failed to run by like 4 or 5 minutes. And of course, there's the instructors are in a truck next to me, and I'm sitting there running. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Discovery Channel 228, I think was the Buds class. That's like the most in-depth Buds videos that I've ever seen to the public. And it was every bit of that. Like, you better pray to fucking God you're hurt. I'm gonna destroy you. You're gonna fucking wish you just quit, you know. And I'm just like, yeah, you know. And I'm like, God, I hope I'm hurt and not being a wimp, you know. And as soon so typically when you get back, you just start getting beat if you fail. Like they start, you know, like drop down, like, you know, you just start getting beat. But this time, I think since I felt so bad, the instructors knew, like, you have the fucking medical, you know. So I go to Also, when I start talking about military shit, my sailor mouth comes out. I do pretty good music. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So I go to medical, and like Bud's Medical is pretty cool. They've got MRI machines, they've got X-rays, and it's like 25 feet right off the sand. I mean, you walk up the beach and like you're in an MRI, in an X-ray. So I get X-rayed, and they don't tell you, of course. I'm sitting there like shaking. I'm like, oh God, I'm about to get my my shit kicked, you know. I walk outside of Bud's Medical, and that instructor that was like, you better pray to God, you know, looks at me, and he just goes, so both your legs are broken. You're fucking lucky. Beat it. Like,
That's all they told you.
Yeah, and well, that's what he told me. And then I left, and then I went and reported like the next morning. I was done that day. I went and reported to medical the next morning, and the doctor was like, okay, so you have a fracture in your right femur, and your left and right tibia and fibula are both broken. So you have 5 broken bones, both legs are broken, one of which is the biggest bone in your body. It's like, you're not continuing training. I sat there and cried. I was like literally cried.
And you did that for how? 4 weeks?
3 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, so I ran on that for 3 weeks. So yeah.
And y'all can't spend $5 grand a minute. So what did that? So you got kicked out, but did you get through Hell Week or no?
I did eventually.
But the first time you had to.
No, so I got rolled, and it's funny when you get rolled, they give you like a month, 2 months to class back up again. Cool. That's just not healing in 2 months, you know. So I get med dropped, and I went to the fleet, and I spent 13 months in the regular Navy on a ship, and I can still to this day say it was the absolute worst 13 months of my entire life. It was horrible.
On a ship?
Yeah, being on a boat. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. I hated it. And I was an engineman to make matters worse. So my cocky ass, when I was at MEPS, joining the military, at that time you had to pick a job in case you didn't make it through SEAL training, then you go do your job. Now you just get to go in as like an SO, which is a special operator. They don't make you pick a rate. So I had to go to boot camp, then I went to my job A school. So they taught me how to do my job, and then I went to BUD/S. So, yeah, so when I got to MEPS, they're like, all right, you qualify for corpsman, which is a Navy medic. You qualify for sonar tech, I think is what it was, and you qualify for an engineman. I was like, well, I don't give a shit, because I'm just going to be a SEAL, so whatever. Like, which one leaves the soonest? And he's like, if you pick engineman, you can leave, I think it was 2.5 months or whatever. I'm like, all right, cool, engineman. Little did I know that an E3 on a boat as an engineman, when you break both your legs at BUD/S and you get dropped, and it's not really up to you, no matter how tough you are, that you get to go and you get to do what's called bilge diving. So you get to go in the bottom of a ship in like 2-foot cramped space. Luckily, I was a really small dude then, but with rags cleaning up like grease and oil and shit like that at the bottom of a boat.
Wait, I have a question, because at this point you have broken legs.
Yes, ma'am.
So how are you doing that with broken legs?
On the boat?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have to run, so that's nice.
Just drag your legs.
You wasn't in a cast or anything.
I wasn't in cast. I was on crutches for like 3 months, 2-3 months, and I had like I had a boot on my I had a thing on my right leg.
Yeah.
They didn't have to cut on.
They weren't compounds, so bones weren't like out or anything.
They didn't
No.
have surgery. Okay.
No. Yeah, no, they didn't have. There was no surgery. There was. I mean, it was a lot of rehab that I did for like the first 6 months. I did rehab, but no, I didn't run for almost that entire year. Crutches for a while, and then was doing rehab on the boat, which was hard because when you're an engineman, I was gone a lot when I was on the boat, deployed quite a bit. So I ended up doing a deployment on that boat. Did a Westpac deployment, which is basically the Western Pacific deployment. Since I was in San Diego.
You in a battleship?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I was on a destroyer.
Destroyer.
Yeah. So
But
that's
this
cool to
is-
be on a battleship.
Yeah.
Actually.
This is before you still haven't went to the second round of.
No.
This
So
is-
this was my first time.
Yeah.
So at that time, I'm trying to there's a lot that happened, so I'm trying to be efficient with it. But so at that time, my then wife and first daughter, Hallie, were living in Texas, right? So Hallie had been born while I was in A school, and so now fast forward here, I'm in buds, break my legs, get jobs, and go to the fleet. I don't know how long it's gonna be till I can get back. You know, it could be 12 months, could be 3 or 4 years. So I'm like, well, hell, screw it. Like, I'm gonna be on a fleet, you know, or be on a boat, be in the fleet. I might as well bring my wife and get out here, right? Obviously, they stayed back in Texas while I was going through SEAL training because it was just, you know, easier for all that. So I fly them out, fly my daughter out. They move out there with me. We get a place. She's there 7 months, and I don't think about all this stuff very often, so bear with me. But I fly them out. They live with me. They're there 7 months before I deploy. In those 7 months, she gets pregnant again. Both accidents. God love, but I would never change it in the world, you're for the world, obviously. But I have a second daughter. I'm like, awesome.
And how old are you now?
I'm 21. So I became a dad at 19, and then had my second daughter. I only have 2 daughters. I had my second kid at 21, and was on the boat and got deployed. And then so I was like, well, hell, I'm gonna deploy, and I'm gonna be gone like, you know, almost 9 or 10 months. You might as well go back home. And then after I deploy, I'm going to buds, or at least I'm gonna try to. So you might as well, you know, and you're pregnant, and I'm gone, and you have like I think Hallie was like a year old then. So I was like, you might as well just go back to Texas with your mom and dad, my mom and dad, right? Free daycare, they'll help, that whole scenario. So she goes home, I go do a deployment. Fortunately, I had made a good name for myself my first time at buds, and some instructors really liked me, and long story short, put some good word in for me. The ship wanted to keep me for like 3 years. They're like, no, you're gonna do 2 deployments, you're gonna be here for 3 years, like, we're gonna keep you. Well, fortunately, some guys that I still to this day, like, I'm super grateful for, they basically reached out, and a Master Chief wrote orders for me and got me back to buds the second time.
These are the SEAL trainers that came and put a good word to get you in.
Yeah, so actually, one of the SEAL instructors in a different phase that I was in owned CrossFit Coronado, and I started training at CrossFit Coronado the first time, so he kind of knew me, and then I guess he kind of like mentored and followed. There's not much mentorship when you're in first phase, but like he basically followed my like progress, and so when I got hurt and got dropped into the boat, he knew. So, but right before I got deployed, I basically hit him up, and I was like, hey, like, they're trying to keep me for 3 years, and I don't want to do this. I obviously want to be a SEAL, that's why I joined the Navy. Can you get me out of here? And so he hit up one of his buddies, who was also a SEAL, Master Chief in Tennessee, actually. Clinton, I'm not sure how far that is from here, but that's where the entire Navy does all of our building. All of our duty stations is all out of Millington, Tennessee. So he wrote me orders while I was deployed, and I got flown out of, we were in Bahrain. I got flown out of Bahrain from the ship.
And this is 20 years old, so you're going back to do your second round.
Yep. So I'm going back to the buds a second time, and that was in 2008, I believe. So yep, I got flown back, went to Chicago to what now is called pre-buds, which I was like, well, I don't need this before, you know. But essentially, that's just 2 months of where they're prepping you physically for buds. So I go back, go through that, get through that, crush it, start at buds, and get into first phase, crush it, start Hell Week, get into Hell Week. Wednesday night of Hell Week, I break my right tibia again.
Doing what?
I didn't get thrown this time. I think it was a overuse injury. So I had stress fractures prior going into Hell Week, but again, I'm like, I'm just gonna get through Hell Week. And my right tibia broke Wednesday night. The instructors were like, well, it's Wednesday, we're not gonna roll you forward. I'm like, I don't want to get rolled forward. When you hit Thursday morning of Hell Week, for those of you that don't know, if you get injured bad enough, they'll roll you forward. It's not something that any of us want. It's not, you can imagine, right, guys like us being in Hell Week and them saying, oh, we'll roll you forward, meaning that you don't have to do the last 2 days. Like, fuck that, I want to do the whole 5 days, you know? So he's like, you gotta quit or keep going. I'm like, well, you know the answer. He's like, get back on your fucking boat. Yeah, you know, so I go get back on my boat. And that was just a tibia at that time, so I was like, cool, it's only a small bone, it's in my lower leg, I'm good, you know, it's cold. That was like December, the 3rd or 4th week of December, like December 20th, or 21st, I think, is when I was in Hell Week, right before Christmas. And so I get through Hell Week, and then, again, I don't say anything, and I push forward like 2-3 weeks trying to get to day 1 of second phase, that second benchmark. 3 days before second phase, they catch it, and it's on a pre-second phase med check. They do an x-ray on everybody, and they caught that I had a broken leg and then rolled me. So, that was my second roll. So, started over, and at this
You
time,
had to heal up again.
yeah, I had like 4 months that time.
4 months of healing.
Yeah, I had plenty of time to heal, right? And
Just
then,
roll back into a third, went straight into it again.
yep. Prior to that though, when I got rolled, I was like, well, I have 4 months, right? At this time, my then wife and 2 daughters are in Texas. And I'm like, well, I'll take some leave, I'll go home, I'll see them, right? Go home to catch my wife having an affair. I'm like, seriously? You know, like, this is the worst timing for this, you know? I handled that completely wrong. I should have went to the instructor staff and talked to them. You know, hindsight's 20/20. I didn't. I kept it in, you know, didn't say anything. So I'm dealing with attorneys and lawyers the next year of my life, 2 years of my life, all through training, you know, whatever. But so what happens, we split up right after the Hell Week, and then come back from Texas, come back off leave, start buds the second time, dealing with all that shit, and then I just started training again. So
Third time.
yeah. So this is my second time with buds, but yeah, it's my got dropped, came back, got rolled this time. Didn't get dropped, got rolled. Got rolled to that was in 2008. Got rolled to my third class, right? So then finished up buds with that class, graduated buds, got into SQT. So after buds, which by the way stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL School. So after buds, I went into what's called SEAL qualification training. It's like a buds 2 basically. So buds is about 6 months, SQT is about 6 or 7 months. So started SQT, got into jump school, and I got swine flu. I don't know if you guys remember swine flu 2009. That shit hurt. That was like, I've had COVID 3 times, and COVID didn't compare to swine flu. Go down shit on swine flu. Swine flu was bad. I was quarantined for 15 days, got rolled. That was like my second roll in my second class. Yeah, so then class back up, and then finally graduated, made it through the rest of SQT, and then graduated in early 2009.
So you went through it pretty much 4 times.
A lot.
That's what I counted. I counted 4 times between going back and forth, getting sick, getting hurt.
4 different classes.
4 different classes.
Yes.
Over a 2-year span?
About 3 years.
3 years of putting yourself through hell.
Yeah.
Just-
From 2006, then on the boat 2007, went back in 2008, and graduated 2009.
What's the mindset that you have to push through that? Like, what's going through your head?
So on the plane here, I took some notes for some things that I kind of wanted to impart. But to answer your question, in short, hate and maybe morbid. I don't know if you can relate,
Yeah.
but a lot of my successes, whether it was high level rugby, to the teams, to being a SEAL, I'll say that hate, fire, being the underdog, being told that I couldn't fucking have it is probably what pushed me through most of the shit in my life. And it may be the opposite, maybe like good things motivate people.
Yeah.
I'm one of those weird dudes that like the bad shit motivates me.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for me being through all the shit that I've been through, I probably wouldn't be as successful as I am today. So I think that
Anybody in here can relate to that? For sure.
so yeah, I think that hate drove me.
Yeah.
My dad probably, my biological father probably
Sure.
drove me a lot.
Sure.
You know, I remember distinctly right before the last time I ever spoke to him, I was 14, and obviously then I already knew I wanted to be a SEAL. He did not want me to join the military. Hated it, and I remember I'll never forget it. It was one of the last conversations we ever had. He said, "You're just gonna be a fucking number." He's like, "Don't do that. Don't go in the military. Don't go serve our government. It doesn't care about you. You're just a fucking number." I'm like, all right, dude. Proudly be a number, you know.
So you got through this, you graduated buds, you're a Navy SEAL Team 7, right?
So teammate.
SEAL Team 8, I'm sorry. You got, where was your first deployment to go do a mission?
Africa. So, another thing that kind of I think drove me throughout my life is that, and I see it as it took me years to kind of get over this, years and years and years, and just in the last probably 4 years is when I kind of accepted it, but I didn't get the experience that I wanted in the SEAL teams. I think everyone, and it's actually more common than what people think. I think everyone thinks that when they hear, certain people in the military that, they were like, everyone in the military was kicking down doors and shooting people in the face.
Yeah.
And like, that's not,
Yeah.
there's many, many different mission sets.
That's
And like,
Hollywood.
yeah, that's very Hollywood. Now, some, like, very, very few guys have gotten to do the cool, sexy shit. Yeah, and you'll hear, I don't care what most of the SEALs today, the generation above me, they were in the war. So currently, we'll get into all this later, but aside from business acquisitions, I work for Jocko, if anyone is familiar with Jocko Willink. So he owns a company, it's called Echelon Front. That's where I was yesterday. So I work for Echelon Front, and we do leadership development for like corporate teams. So basically, corporate companies come in and they hire us to come in and train them on decision-making skills under mass chaos. So we basically put them in a tactical situation. Not that we're training tactics, but we put them in a tactical situation with kit and with rifles and all that, and turn up the heat a little bit for them. And it teaches them how to communicate and decision-making skills and teamwork and all that.
Civilians.
Yes. Some are vets, but I mean, they're civilian companies,
Yeah.
which actually goes hand in hand with my business acquisition, so it's perfect synergy for that. But anyways,
You went to Africa.
yeah, so Africa, about that time, that was in early 2010, because I got to the team, got to the SEAL Team 8 in Virginia Beach, 2009, did about a year and a half workup. So this time, I've been in the Navy like 4.5 years, and I've been in training close to the entire time. And so I got deployed to Africa, and I wanted to go to Afghanistan, kick doors down, and what I did looking back now was pretty cool, but it wasn't what I wanted at first. And being 24, my first deployment, 23. I was 23 years old, turned 24 right after deployment, but 23 years old in Africa, instead of being like Jocko, like my older generation, the generation that I grew up watching, I'm like, man, they're in Afghanistan and doing crazy cool shit, and they're in Ramadi and Fallujah, and doing, like, that was like when the war was hot, 05, 06, 07, 08. My ass went to go do something different. So instead of doing that cool, sexy shit, I was doing, it's kind of sexy, but I was basically bearded out, hair to my shoulders, living in ditch in the middle of a city in North Africa, wearing man jammies. Yeah, that's what they call them, no disrespect. But wearing, the local Hajj clothing and speaking French, and living in the city.
French?
Not fluently now, and it hasn't been, it's been years, so it's diminished greatly. But at the time, wasn't fluent then, but very conversational. Enough to run intel and talk to people and stuff like that. So that was my mission. Had 3 deployments to Africa, and it was basically FID, which is foreign internal defense. And while there, we're talking to people and trying to push assets for the agency people that are working out of the embassy in the capital of Chad. So I was in Chad mostly. I've been to, if you basically take the continent of Africa, and if you're familiar with where Uganda and Kenya are on the east side, draw a line straight across the country, straight across the continent. I've been to every country north of that line. So I was all over North Africa, but mostly in Chad, Cameroon, those 2 countries.
Running security.
Libya, yeah. So basically doing FID, but at the same time talking to people and trying to pull intel for. There was a lot at that time in that area. Africa, it's Arab Africa, but there were a lot of IED makers there, and a lot of cells that were in that area that were making that were doing a lot of stuff that initialized all of the stuff that was happening in the Middle East. So we were doing FID, but we were really trying to hunt down and find these people in conjunction with the agency people that were working out of the embassy in the capital of Chad. So we would report every couple of days to them, hey, we can talk to these guys. They know these bomb makers that are here in Chad Lake. So we were trying to set up movements for that.
Right. So we had talked, because I had actually thought, hey man, what's full-blown combat like? And I can appreciate that. Honestly, it's like, man, it's not always like that when you're a SEAL. And
I got a lot of cool stories, but
right. But even the other SEAL, I know Chad Kavanaugh said, it's like, dude, it ain't all shit you see. Like, it's once in a blue moon. Unless you're in full-blown war, you ain't gonna see a whole lot.
I missed the cool part of the war by like 2 years.
Right.
You know, but I not broke my leg the first time.
Right.
Maybe I'd have been up out of
Yeah.
Afghanistan, you know?
But as far as, because I actually, hey man, what was this, the hairiest moment you've been in? You told me that story about how those guys ran up on you all with guns.
Yeah.
And y'all, like, this is
That was
it.
wild.
Yeah.
That was wild. And yeah, and at 20, and it's like you don't realize that you're young when you're young.
Yeah.
But now at 38, looking back at like
That could've been it.
24, I'm like, damn, that's crazy. I was doing that shit in Africa, you know?
Yeah.
Because there were 7 of us, 7 or 8 of us in the entire country. We were the only military SF. There were French special forces there. There were some American. There was an agency. There were 2 agency, like CIA operatives, pretty much. There were 2 of those people there at the, and there were some Marines at the embassy. That was it.
Yeah.
And we were probably 25 minutes from the embassy. So the whole Benghazi thing very much could have happened to us, and that's kind of what that was in the back of our minds. Like, all right, we're highly trained. Like we're all carrying, but it's like little SIG 320s and shit. Like I got 9+1 on me. Like what am I gonna do if shit goes sideways? It's gonna go sideways fast and bad. And that's kind of how it was for us. Like we weren't in Afghanistan kicking doors down, shooting dudes in the face, but it's like if shit goes sideways for us, like there's 7 of us in a city, like we're fucked, So different twist on my experience.
So now that they have your whole story, I want to extract the lessons that you've learned from being a leader. 'Cause they teach you how to be a leader and
Absolutely.
discipline the shit out of you through SEAL team. And I kind of correlate allies with versus war.
Very
It's a lot of the same corollaries to make it to the next level and be a high performance entrepreneur as it is for
Absolutely.
what you've done. The biggest hang up, I think, and just in my experience, is anxiety, fear, especially in my 20s and 30s. I still have anxiety and fear. I just deal with it better now. I cope better because I have pretty coping mechanisms in my mind.
Absolutely.
Speak to them of how you handled high pressure, stress situations where everybody's counting on you, and how do you push through that without freezing and locking up and saying, hey, I quit?
Absolutely. To echo what you just said though too, first, I've been listening, here in the back all day listening, and it's so funny and wild to me whenever I get around a group of other entrepreneurs, how much stuff, like how many mindset tricks and like mottos, maxims, quotes, like all these mindset tools, how many of them extend from special forces units into the entrepreneurial world. It's crazy. Anyone that's ever been in either one of those groups would very much relate with the other. So, that being said, I think like you spend, I spent 4.5 years in training before I was ever deployed downrange or in a combat zone. And that's a lot of time to build a lot of mental tricks. And a lot of mindset truly is mental tricks. And it's just learning how to, how to force your mind to do things. And I heard, I don't know if it's one of the speakers or one of the questions, that someone earlier said something to the effect of that your body can do so much more than you think it can. It absolutely can. I will 100% guarantee you that your body can go, if not double, triple what sitting here right now. Every one of you could get up right now and go run a marathon. Right now. Your body can do so much more than your mind thinks it can. And it's playing mental tricks. And then I think they've always tried to size up a SEAL, is he 6'2", 250, is he 5'8", 140, like there is no mold, because I think a lot of it is childhood, is how you're raised, and mindset, and you can't mold a mindset, or you can't see that, you can't gauge a mindset prior. So you spend all those years molding a mindset, going through it. And I wrote a couple things down, forgive me, but like a couple tricks that I think would help you guys. So one thing first I kind of want to go over is I had a maxim going through, and this was when I was 19, and it's laughable almost because I did leave on crutches, not on a stretcher, but I had a maxim that I told myself, and I don't remember where I heard this from, but I said, there's only 2 ways I'm going to leave this motherfucker, and that's with a trident on my chest or on a fucking stretcher. I used to always kind of say it to myself, daily. Like that's the only 2 ways I'm leaving here. And I would see, there was an Olympic bronze medalist laying next to me in the surf zone when I was 19, and he got up and quit. And when he did, I'm just like, oh, it's consumed your soul. He got up, and I'm like, like I'm not a good medalist at the Olympics, So stuff like that. But this maximum I told myself was, trident or stretcher. And I remember being very young around my dad and all his rugby buddies, and something that, this is my stepdad, but he's my dad, he raised me since I was 4. But that guy, one of the things that he always told me when I was young, and it carried with me, was he said, if there's not something in your life that you're willing to die for, then you don't deserve to live. And that always stuck with me. I mean, I was like 10, and he was telling me that. And so instantly, it was always like for my brothers and for my family. That's, or for my country, that's a pretty patriotic kind of thing when you're younger, and then it kind of develops as you get older. But that for me was always huge, and for me, my goal, my dream was being a SEAL, having a trident. So a good analogy that whenever I talk to people, talk to groups, things like that, something that I'll say is that, what is your trident? What are you willing to give your life for? Because I guarantee you to have something that's outside, not outside, that's not the right word, something that's maybe outside of your mental thought, it's definitely within you, but it's not quite to your potential yet, it's a little bit above, and you guys have been saying this shit all day long, but I'm just like, yes, you said something earlier, I think whenever Chad was talking, that guy blew my mind, by the way, you were talking with Chad, and you'd mentioned, or Chad said something about biting off a little bit more than you can chew, right, and just fucking figuring it out. Like, that's so much of my life, both as a SEAL and as an entrepreneur, like, just fucking figure it out, man. Like that plays so much. But trident versus stretcher. If there's nothing in your life that you would die for, you don't deserve to live. So what is that for you? For me, it was a trident. For me, my dream was being a SEAL. What is your trident? Like, what are you willing to die for? Is it wealth? Is it your family? Is it freedom? I'd like to assume it's probably financial freedom for everyone in here. You wouldn't be here right now, but it's freedom for your family. However we all look at that, right? So that's kind of my one thing that I'll kind of say on that is that, like, what is the trident? That was my dream. What's your dream? What would you die for? You have to think like that. And it's at 38 years old, man, after 19 years of chasing war and 10 years as an entrepreneur and all the ups and downs I've had, and disagree with me if you want, but this is my opinion, I truly believe you've got to be willing to give your life. And I was willing to die. I mean, I ran on 2 broken legs, not giving a fuck. Like, I was willing, and in Hell Week, I mean, dude, by Thursday night, we're damn near, like, breaching death.
Guys, heard what he just said. He was willing to die. You guys gotta be willing to die financially. You understand that concept? If you're not willing to blow yourself up and go all the way and go balls in, then what are you doing it for? If you're just gonna piddle around, what's the point? You're not gonna make it. Y'all have to extract these lessons. I listen, I pick up these things and I extract. That's why the man didn't quit. His why was so big. He wanted that so bad. You gotta want this shit bad. Hensley, how bad you want it, Hensley? I know that man wants it, right? I know the men that wanted it here. You're just selling your spirit. You don't quit. You're a dog. You ain't gonna quit.
Never. And you gotta find that, guys. Whatever it is for you. If you had a dad that beat the shit out of you, if you had a abusive mother, if you had drugs or violence or whatever it is, or you had a dad that said you're just a fucking number, I mean, whatever it is, find that thing for you that gives you that fire, because there really is it's such a double-sided coin. Whenever you say, give them something that will make them not quit, and it's like, I can, but I can't. Like, it's all right here. I can give you these little tricks, like, for one, it's kind of funny. I was a winner of Bud's class. One trick we used to do was like, and a buddy of mine told me this, and it actually fucking works. When you're out on the beach, you're soaking wet, we're freezing cold, going through a Hell Week, haven't slept in 3 or 4 days, you're essentially running an ultra marathon with a boat on your head, which is, man by man, if you do the math, it's about 80 pounds. So about 80 pounds on your neck, 5 days, ultra marathon, soaking wet in combat boots with no sleep. So that's essentially what Hell Week is, with a bunch of other shit in it. And we were really, really cold. My buddy was like, bro, he's like, what if there was a giant toaster right next to us? I'm like, what the fuck, what are you talking about, dude? Are you already hallucinating? It's not even Wednesday yet. Like, usually you wait till Wednesday until we start seeing weird shit, And this is like Tuesday, and he's like, imagine if there was like a ladder, like a roofing ladder, like a big ladder, like up on the inside of this big giant fucking toaster. And you crawl up on that toaster and you take out this big giant loaf of bread, and you have to, it's all your might, you're grabbing these loaves, these 2 slices of bread, and you're up you're dragging up the fucking ladder, and you put it in the toaster, and you push it down, and and the coals heat up, this giant toaster, you know, and you're just like, oh, I'm so fucking cold, you know. You pull the fucking first piece of toast out, you lay it on the ground, and you like lay on it, you know, and like it's a giant, it's bigger than you, it's a giant piece of toast. You know, and you lay on it, and then you're like, oh, it's so warm. You grab the other piece, pull it up over you like a warm blanket.
You're playing
Shit, mind tricks and shit like that is what, and it's funny now, but like that shit works. When you're like core temp's dropping and you're getting low, and you just gotta go somewhere else in your head. We've been on like a really long run where you just kind of like, you look up and you're like, damn, like I just did like 12 miles. I felt like it was like 3 or 5. It didn't seem as long as it was, you know. You went somewhere else in your head, and that's what you got to do whenever, whether it's physical, mental, financial. If you're like underwriting a deal and it's just hard and it's just like you're putting in the days, just go somewhere else in your fucking head, and when you look up, it'll be over, and you'll be there. You know, just keep putting in the work and playing those mind games. And I mean, I have several written here that I can give that are, and that's kind of the double-edged sword I was talking about with mindset. Is that mindset really is just mind tricks, but it's nothing physical. There's no exercises or drills that I can give you. It's got to be fucking hard, and find the fuel, whatever that fuel is for you. Find the fuel that will drive you and push you, mixed with a little bit of some mind tricks, right? Something that, and then like little, like for me, I've always been a very intuitive, spiritual person, so like I'm real like quotey, and words mean a lot to me. So I do quite a bit of writing. So one thing for me that I always said that, and you probably heard it because a lot of SEALs talk about this, but I think I saw it on a t-shirt one time, and I'm like, fuck, we said that all through Buzz. But it's step after step, breath after breath, mile after mile, never fucking quit, keep fucking moving. And as long as you just keep fucking moving, and it's like, you can just put your head down, look down, and this is the analogy about a like long run. If you look up, and you guys said this earlier, shit's a marathon, it's not a sprint. SEAL training, being a successful entrepreneur, you know, whatever it is, life, it's a marathon, guys, it's not a sprint. So putting your head down, just watching those steps, just hearing your breath, you know, and just mile after mile, and you look up, and then you're gonna be a millionaire, you're gonna be a billionaire, you're gonna be financially free, you're gonna be a successful investor, talking to a group of investors. It's like, that'll happen when you just go to that place in your mind, find that fire, find that fuel, and push forward, step after step, breath after breath, mile after mile, never fucking quit. And then something else that we did too is that
Say that one more time, step after this.
step after step, breath after breath, breath after breath, mile after mile, keep fucking going. So for me, when I hear those words, I can like literally, I can close my eyes, and I can just hear that. I can hear that breath, that rhythmic heart just boom, boom, pounding, and it's just, you gotta find that place in your head, and I can't do it for you. No one can do it for you but you. You gotta find that place in your head, that rhythm, whether it's in business, in investing, find that rhythm, that's that step after step, breath after breath, mile after mile, never fucking quit. And if you find that fire, like you're gonna get there. Something else that we would say a lot in SEAL training is that like, dude, they're not gonna fucking kill us. Disclaimer if you guys have died through SEAL training, but like the goal isn't like SEAL training is very, very safe. The ones that have actually passed on, they had conditions that they didn't usually talk about. So the reason why I say that though is that you're not gonna die. You know, being a real estate investor, you may go bankrupt, you may go broke, you know, you may go bust, but like you're not gonna fucking die. You know what I mean? So, and we don't have debtor's prison anymore. Like you're not going to prison, you're not going to die, right? Just keep pushing. And something that we used to say is just make it to the next meal. And the reason why we said that is because sometimes even the shit is so hard, sometimes that the day is even too long. To break it down, oh, let's just get to the day. Fuck that, that's too damn long, right? Just get to the next meal, right? Your meals are about, if you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, your meals are about 6 hours apart, right? If you can just, something that we would say jokingly, laughing with each other, is that like, dude, you want to quit? Yeah, dude, I'm gonna quit. When are you gonna quit? How about we quit at lunch? All right, let's just make it lunch. Not now. I want to quit right now. Let's just get to lunch and then we'll quit. And you get to lunch, and you're sitting there, and you're getting warm, and you're eating your food. And you're like, well, fuck, I made it this far. Like, I'm just sitting here. No one's yelling at me. No one's beating me. Like, let's just make it dinner. Yeah, let's just go to dinner.
Just keep moving that
We'll just,
needle.
yeah, we'll just quit at dinner. You can just fucking keep doing that. And then you look up and the marathon's almost halfway over. And you look up and then you just put 2 years in and you graduated. You look up and you're a fucking multi-millionaire real estate investor. You know, so, yeah, just make it to the next meal. However you have to break it down. Like whenever we're in SUT out at, we're doing land warfare out at Nyland. It's a 55-pound ruck with a 20-pound weight vest marathon run in boots. And you have to do it like 5 in the morning because it's like 103 degrees already at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And that shit was so shitty that there were these, I remember the road we did, it was like halfway out and then halfway back. So like 12, 13, something like that miles out and then back. And every like 50 yards, there were these like telephone poles. And I would sprint, or not sprint, like fastly run one and then like light jog one. And I did that for 4.5 hours. And it was just like, make it the next meal. Sometimes a meal's too long, 6 hours is too long. I was 50 yards. Make it 50 yards and then I'll stop. Run as fast as I can, 50 yards and then stop. And kind of like butt shuffle, like just kind of like hustle a little bit, you know, and then catch my breath for 50 yards. Do that for 4.5 hours. How brain numbing that is. Put your head down, mile after mile, breath after breath.
But you build up more and more mental bandwidth as you do it, and you realize, shit, I just did it, and it becomes, I wouldn't say it becomes easier, but your mindset opens up to know, shit, I can do this, because I just made it through 2 days.
And it gets stronger.
You get stronger.
Day by day.
Day by day.
So 2 years in. Yeah.
Mile by mile, like you said.
Yeah.
I love this.
You need your first deal. You're like, damn, I can do this. Like, how does it make my first deal, right? And you get your first apartment or your first multifamily or whatever it is that each of you are doing. Then you start racking them up and you're like, damn. And then you start getting stronger and you get more confident. Then you're like, Chad up here talking. You know, it's like you, right? It's like you build these little victories. This isn't some big giant victory. We're like, oh my God, I'm an investor. Like, it's little
That's
victories.
So good. Build them little. That is so true.
I mean,
everybody's trying to make it big.
It's a game of inches.
Yes.
I mean, life, combat. I mean, war even, like financial freedom, it's a game of inches. I mean, it truly is being consistent. That's also one of the things I'll say is that you've got to fucking be consistent. You can't work really hard for 2 or 3 days and take 2 or 3 days off, or take 1 day off. You cannot let off the gas pedal. It's got to be consistent. Even if it's just an inch a day, it's got to be consistent. Every single day, put the work in. And that gets out to something else too, is that that I really wanted to tell you guys was that something that we say a lot in the SEAL teams is that, and you guys have probably heard this, what got you there isn't what's going to keep you here in the next level. Like there's that, you know. But then for a SEAL, it was like, you know, becoming a SEAL, graduating SEAL training, and getting pinned. That's just your ticket to like sit at the table. You still don't know shit. Like, you're allowed to sit at the table with us now, but shut the fuck up, new guy. Like, you still don't get to like do like you're like
You ain't done shit yet.
exactly. Like okay, you're tough, you're hard, you can be consistent, you can go somewhere else in your mind, you can do all these things, but you haven't gone to war yet, you haven't done anything yet, you know. So you have a seat at the table, but the trident is earned every day. You don't just graduate SEAL training and all right, cool, I'm a SEAL forever. In the sense you are, but not the way that we look at it. You have to wake up every single morning, and it's just a decision. You have to decide every fucking morning to be a SEAL. When you wake up and you have that. Every time I put my uniform on and I saw that trident, I'm like, all right, am I gonna be a bitch today, or am I gonna be a hard motherfucker? Yeah. It wasn't that, oh, I graduated SEAL training 1 time. You don't do a deal 1 time and you're just a real estate investor for like forever, right? You gotta keep being a real estate investor. Every morning when you wake up, you have to make the conscious decision. Am I a professional? Am I a real estate investor? Or am I a fucking nobody? Am I somebody or am I nobody? And you have to make that decision literally every fucking morning. You don't get to, you know, so that was my piece that I kind of wanted to impart, is that you don't get to try it at 1 time and you're a SEAL for life. You have to decide and choose to be a SEAL every single day. You got to decide to be a real estate investor every single fucking day. You got to put the work in. You know, you can do a deal and maybe, you know, get a seat at the table, you know, with the big dogs, like Chris and these guys and all these speakers up here, but dude, you're just at the fucking table, right? If you've done no deals, like you haven't done shit yet, you haven't been to combat, right? You can join the groups and learn and get all this great stuff, but if you don't take it back to your everyday lives and use it every day, like why are you here? Like use this and make the decision every fucking day to be a real estate investor. And then eventually you'll be at the table with Chris and you'll you'll be in these groups with these guys speaking, and you'll be a professional real estate investor, and you'll have respect from Chris and from guys like that. When new guys show up, cool bro, you made it through SEAL training, fucking new guy, you haven't done shit yet, fuck you. It's kind of how it is, you know? You have to do a couple deployments before guys are like, all right, bro, respect, you know? And I've seen that as an entrepreneur myself. Like, you know, I can buy one company, and I'm about to close on a very large multi-seven-figure construction company, commercial construction company right now. And I by no means have the illusion that I'm gonna buy this company, all right, cool, I'm good, I'm set. Like, we start closing next week, and I'll close on it, and I'm super fucking stoked, I'm excited. But by no means do I like, all right, cool, as soon as I buy it, I'm good, I'm done. Now the work fucking begins. Now it's time to get to work.
We wrap it up, Coulter. What's something, you know, final words, these young, we got experienced investors, newbies, in between, done 1 or 2 deals, no deals, a lot of deals. What's your final advice to these guys on kind of a general overall thing we've been talking about on mindset to keep these guys going? Because, I mean, how many of you guys want to quit every day? Dude, Patty, you know. How many times I'm like, what the fuck you doing?
We almost make it a joke. We almost make it a joke.
Like, who the fuck you think we are? And they're saying, hey, we're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And then it's like being a crackhead.
Yeah.
I used to smoke
You
crack.
know? But you gotta keep pushing, right? And that's talk. Let's finish up on that.
Yeah.
What do you recommend these guys?
So two things I'll close it up with and I'll say, and you get me going, I could talk about this shit for days, you know, but no one's fucking coming, guys. No one's coming to save you. You are, in the Navy we call it yo-yo. You're on your own. If you ever get caught out in a mission or you get caught out doing something and like there's no QRF, quick reaction force. There's no reinforcements, there's no backup coming, like you're on your fucking own, dude. You gotta hold down the fort for 48 hours until we can get, you know, backup to you, but like you're on your own. And I take that in my civilian life, in my entrepreneurial life. No one, and I actually went so far as to, I don't have it yet, but 100%, I'm getting this tattooed on my hand right here where I literally look down and I see it every day. No one is coming. And man, if one quote has kind of gotten me through, you know, the last couple of years of being a millionaire, losing $1 million, being homeless, all this shit, is that no one is coming. This shit's up to me. You know, and not to say it in a negative way, but no one fucking cares. No one gives 2 fucks about you to an extent. Why? Because they're worried about their own self. Because no one's coming for them either. So it's not bad. It's a good thing. I mean, you've got to be able to pull a weight for your boat crew or for your team, for your family. You got to be able to pull your own weight. No one's coming to save you. The shit's on you. It's on your shoulders. And there was a point recently when I had to look myself in the mirror, tears streaming down my face, and I'm like, till death. And where that came from for me was the stretcher versus trident. And I didn't realize it then until a month or 2 later, which is now like a year and a half ago. A month or 2 later, I was like, holy shit, at 19, I did the whole stretcher trident thing, like, you know, I'm either leaving this motherfucker with a trident or on a stretcher. And then at like 36 years old, at my fucking lowest, I look myself in the mirror, just fucking screaming, and I'm like, till fucking death. Like, I'm gonna be a successful entrepreneur, or I'm gonna fucking die. That's it. Burn the fucking ships. And that was the last, that is right when I got into business acquisitions a few months later, and then now it's wild. But that's the one thing I'll say is no one's coming. And the second thing that I'll end with, and it's in my social media handles actually, is 212 degrees. You may have heard this before. This has become a life philosophy for me. What's 212 degrees? Boiling water. What does boiling water do?
Well,
Boiling water produces steam. Why is that important? Exactly, right? Well, we have nuclear power now, but the last 2 centuries, steam has saved us. It sterilizes medical equipment. It warms us. It heats all of our buildings and our structures. It has pushed steamships across the ocean to establish, you know, trade routes with other countries to bring in supplies. It pushed locomotives westward across westward expansion and gave us the entire United States. I mean, dude, steam saved our fucking life. What's 211 degrees? It's just warm fucking water. That's it. That 1 degree of difference is what made all the fucking, it's what made us, it's what saved mankind. Had it not been for steam, they hypothesized that like we probably would have like died off. Like steam saved our fucking ass. So 212 degrees produces steam, and that's what literally propelled mankind into the 20th and 21st centuries. 211 degrees, that's just warm fucking water. So when you wake up in the morning, are you just warm fucking water, or are you gonna be steam? Everything you do, that one extra rep, that one extra deal, that one extra mile, that one extra phone call, that one extra Zoom business meeting that you really don't wanna fucking do, that one extra date night with your wife, that one extra book read to your kid at night, that one extra vacation that you really can't swing, but you know your family really fucking needs it. Like that one extra degree, that's where the winning's done. That's the difference between someone that's a professional, someone that's great and good, someone that's a professional and an amateur. Look at any sport, any racing type shit. The top 2 or 3 guys, dude, they're fucking milliseconds apart, right? It's that 1 degree that makes all the difference in the world. It's that 1 degree that'll change your fucking world. So every day, put in that 1 extra degree that you can, and it'll save your fucking life.
Give it up for Colton.